It's about 76,000 fewer than the previous year and the lowest one-year tally since 1979. Joining us with the economic implications of the declining U.S. birth rate, Melissa Kearney is an economics professor at the University of Maryland. Good morning to you. Somehow every story relates back to Elon Musk one way or another, and this is an issue that he's been talking about for quite some time, Melissa. How bad is it, and when do we have to really start worrying about it?
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me on, Andrew. So it's actually quite likely that in the not too distant future, the global population is going to decline. But in the U.S., we're facing a shrinking working age population pretty imminently. So I think that's something that we need to be worried about. Our working age population has been stagnant for a while. Births in the U.S. have been falling persistently and precipitously since 2007, and I don't see any reason to think they're going to turn around.
If you were going to do something about that, what would it be?
So unfortunately, the lesson we can learn from other high-income countries that have been expressly experimenting with pro-natalist policies really reveals that economic tinkering, some tax credits here or there, extended parental leave, that's not going to do it. So I think if what we want to do is just, hold steady birth rates, even at the low level they are, or turn them around to increase them, it's going to take a real big investment in families in this country, a lot more support, financial support, things that make it easier for parents to combine having kids and working, really a dramatic reorientation of society toward a more family-friendly society. Short of that, we have to think about how to.
I mean, we've been going the last 100 years the other direction, though. So, do you think there's a political? So it would have to be a political will almost. What would be a good country to look at as an example of a country that's turned this the right direction?
Yeah, so this is actually a really interesting point. I think this is why this major challenge has snuck up on us, is because people have had in mind since the 1960s this misguided worry about overpopulation. So you're right, people have been celebrating declines in birth rates, and now all of a sudden we're starting to realize that that's actually going to be really bad for our fiscal situation and our economic dynamism. Who's turned it around? Japan has managed to stall the decline in birth rates. It's still birth rates in Japan are still so low that they're far below replacement level. I suppose they haven't fallen out quite as far as South Korea. They've spent 4 times as much in terms of share in their GDP on pro-family policies in recent decades. France has managed to throw a lot of support at this problem and, again, stalled out their fertility decline, but still far below replacement level. I can't really point to an advanced economy that has turned around declining fertility rates. That's the issue here. So I think what we have to think about is, if we're facing an aging population, a shrinking age working population, how do we invest in a talent pipeline when there are just simply fewer workers around? That's going to take a big investment in human capital.
Hey, I just wonder what those moves are that companies do or that countries do that you think are successful. I mean, when you think of Japan as the example to this, they're doing more and more to try and get women in the workforce. It's hard to boost your birth rate at the same time you're trying to get women to come into the workforce, especially in a workforce where there aren't enough days off. There's a very serious long day that goes along with that. What are countries doing that helps? Is it spending more on childcare so that women can work and have kids? Is it doing more to pay people to stay home? I mean, it's a complicated question, and when you push on one lever, you inevitably want.
So yeah, man, this is right here. I'd like to say in America, this is wow. When I really think about it, it can be worrisome and everything because we drop the drop of the birth rate here in America, and also it's that's Japan and South Korea, they have a slow start birth rate as well. It can affect the economy in a way. It really can. It really opened my eyes to it a little bit. So go ahead, Hakeem, man. What's your take with the U.S. is follows the birth rate? You on mute. You on mute.
Jordan, me and you talk all the time. You know how I feel about kids. This is the effects of, I don't want to say feminism. I don't want to say women putting their goals before family. This is the effect of it, bro. In the 80s and the 90s, when we were seeing all our friends having kids and they said, man, they done messed up their life, we might not even have people to be working at hospitals because the birth rate is so low. New doctors, new football players, whatever you think. The negative to say, I want to travel, I want to see the world. You don't want to have a look when you don't prioritize pro-family thing. It's a lot more men now who don't have kids. It's a lot more women now who don't even want children anymore. What is that going to do for our future? This is why when I hear talking points, oh, I'm the rich auntie, I'm going to do this and that, I say, okay, no, I want my own family. I want 8. You know me, Jordan. How many times I said I want about 10 kids?
Yeah.
And everybody sitting here say, oh, I don't want no children. Oh, I don't want to hurt my body. What about the future of America? There's, you know what I mean? And we need to really think about that. We need to think about the rhetoric that's spewing that's this. No, America ideology in the last 5 years have made a lot of women choose not to want to be pro-family anymore. They want to be pro-self. Shout outs to the
The
cynical one.
cynical one. We see you.
So I'm asking, if we have a declining birth rate, a lot of us going to be ending up in geriatric homes and stuff like that because we might not have nobody to take care of us. But a lot of people are banking on they're going to make the money to be able to be taken care of. So we need to think about this and need to think about the rhetoric they're spewing to black people here who says you got Planned Parenthood, who we literally abort 1 million babies a year. And women say, hey, I just want to prioritize career. Nobody say you can't have your career.
Question: why you think? Do you think when we remember we talked about a couple years ago about Roe versus Ray? Do you feel like this is one of the reasons they put this on that?
I believe so. I believe so. But when you do that, look what the effects. You know who's not having. You know one continent they did not say who having an issue. Africa. Africa is the leading country with the most young people. Certain countries in average have an average from 21 to 25. It's a lot of young people in Africa. A lot of young people. They're still having tons of kids. We need more children, but overall, there's a declining birth rate even in London, even in Italy, even in Portugal. A lot of people are prioritizing other things than being pro-family. They don't see it to even work. They don't even care about lineage anymore. Women say, forget your dusty last name. Forget your dusty kids. The negativity of having children and prioritizing fun trips, going to Dubai to be a dumpster and having these pictures. Who's going to enjoy the pictures with you? I would love to have 5 children. We all on the plane. I'm taking me and my young niggas to Egypt.
That like button on Instagram is a drug, Hakeem. It's addictive.
It is a drug. African countries also have lower life expectancies. Woo! I know. The queen is it. I understand that PhD, but what are we going to do with declining birth rates? I'm gonna have to drop the link for the queen of the
Mhm.
SBG game to come in here because I know she's gonna spank me, but I gotta hear. Huh?
I want to say this though, we're like I said, it's not a major problem here, but it can continue to be a major problem. But Japan has a major problem. You know what Japan's doing right now?
Yeah,
They call the Black Americans say, "Hey,
yeah,
we need your help.
yeah, yeah,
We the Black Americans, come on." I don't know. They say the incentives and everything, but they call us Black Americans to come over there and procreate and help with the economy. Up in South Korea, they call any American, hey, we'll pay you 50K a child if y'all can come help us.
yes,
50K a child in South Korea just to do that. Because they're suffering with the economy and everything.
they are, and we are suffering. Don't get me wrong. We've seen a lot of negative things happen growing up in the '90s,
Mm-hmm.
which I can understand why a lot of women are turned off by wanting
Mm-hmm.
to have kids. They don't see the value in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it does make me feel like I understand that, but I know seeing trauma might make other people not see the value of it. But there's the beauty to having children, and
But the thing is, Hakeem, the name is important for me. You know, I have a daughter. You know, hopefully I have more kids. My wife want to have two. I want to have four and everything. You know, I have four. You know, I'm not pushing and everything, but that's what I like and everything. And for me, when I think about that, you know, I just want to help build a generation and everything. So once my kid is good, you know, I'm not thinking this about my kid. You know, if my daughter, she have, you know, kids, great grandkids, you know, I'm gonna make sure, you know, if like I said, if Kale Coach Ray will blow up and everything, grandkids don't need to worry about anything. You know, it'll be an easier life for them and everything.
Mhm.
You know, and also being a tight close family and everything, I see how, you know, how we help each and each every one of us and everything. You know how, you know, you can build wealth by building a family, and you know, and build by generation and everything. You know, and you know, and you know, and that's the more I think about family and everything. It's about, you know, building a generation. You know, make sure, you know, they get what they need, and you know, and also just build wealth. You know, for my bloodline and everything. But the thing is like in America, we don't think about that no more. You know, we think about, you know, being, you know, being more individual, and you know, try to live the best life we can live.
Self-preservation.
Yeah, exactly. Self-preservation is, and you know, if we die alone, we die alone. You know, which is cool and everything. But the thing is, it's like, what are you leaving in this earth other than you being selfish? You know, what can other people talk to you about when they talk about, you know, when you died, and people, you know, coming to, you know, talk about you, how you was and everything. You know, they might talk about the good times and everything, but
Mhm.
what have you impacted for your generation that people can talk about?
Yeah.
And that's what I think about. You know, that's what I think about. You know, how can you impact your bloodline? How can you pick that impact, you know, future generation, and keeping it in the name and say, hey, you know, there's the Lewis family 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 100 years ago. This is how it started. You know what I'm saying? And that name will keep pushing and everything. You know, and that's how I think about family in a way. And you know, looking at the birth rate, how it's falling down in America. I mean, it's falling. It's not very dangerous as we're begging, say, hey, you know, your next income tax, we're throwing an extra, you know, 1,500 or extra $2,000, you know, for your kid and everything. Which I can see that happening if it keeps declining and everything. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, I feel like, you know, family is important because, you know, not just, you know, love, you know, buying everything, but also financially, and also how your name is as well. It can build for generations and generations.
Go ahead, PhD.
Go ahead, PhD. Well, thank you for coming stopping
I
by.
appreciate you gracing us with
No problem.
your beautiful presence.
Look at you. How y'all
Your
doing?
you know, I'm smitten by your intelligence.
Is that right?
I am. I am quite
Okay.
am.
All right. Well, so I heard
Mm,
you saying y'all were talking about the birth rate
mm,
declining, and the women, at least in this country, and apparently many others, are prioritizing career and self, which I guess someone referred to it. I think it was Jordan, as like selfish, but I just think you have to consider that, okay, for many years, women were primarily concerned with home and hearth, right? But
mm-hmm.
that wasn't really appreciated by men, right? And so now that there's being more of a shift, y'all want us to go back to prioritizing that, but you all didn't even appreciate it when the women did. And now that the danger alarm is sounding, now we supposed to be willing to put America, or just society, ahead of our own desires and what's in our own best interest. And I just, once take the genie out of the bottle, you can't stuff it back in, right? And so I think men have to decide what they truly prioritize and make some changes on their end, and not just be looking at the women. Because one of the comments I put in the chat was Dubai, and even if you being, I guess, a dumpster for many women, being a dumpster in Dubai is always going to trump being with a $50,000 man, right? Because that woman, not only is she gonna have to have the children and do a lot of the child care and that type of stuff, but she also gonna have to get out and work too. And so you can't put the burden on women for all of this, right? Because not only do we hold the burden for carrying and birthing the children, but we also have a large part of the burden for sustaining the family economically. And so I think men, if you want that, a woman to prioritize family and having children and, focusing on family, then y'all gonna have to focus on some stuff too. And you're not gonna be able to just have a willy-nilly existence, right? So, there are many ways that people can give back to society or have a legacy that don't just involve children. So if I start a scholarship program for a trust that funds a scholarship program for whatever population that goes on in perpetuity, to me, that's more of a legacy than somebody's knucklehead son that's in and out of jail their whole life,
No,
right?
you're right, but that's not always the case, though.
It's not. But in many instances, it is the case. And it's not a whole lot of generational wealth being
Mm-hmm.
generated, right? So we can look back to the times when we had very high marriage rates, talking
Mm-hmm.
about Black people. It still wasn't a whole lot of wealth being generated. So I think a lot of the arguments that are made in favor of women focusing on and prioritizing family life, they're specious arguments, because they didn't actually, even when we had that situation, it didn't actually come to fruition.